The numbers did not lie, but they did not add up either. Sector 2, Medium Speed Corners. This was Charles Leclerc's domain for a few years, his fiefdom at Ferrari. Teammates came and went, Vettel, Sainz, even Raikkonen, but no one, and I mean no one, could brake harder than him. No longer. Lewis Hamilton did not push it further towards the breaking point. No, he took it smoother, cleaner, with more rotation, less correction, and made it look effortless. The engineers loaded the information 3 times. The simulator pushed it out every time. Not to be. But in Formula One, when reality and model do not mesh, you don't reject reality, you question the model. Inside Maranello, the simulator is the word of God. Every brake map, every energy recovery mode, built around Leclerc's input. He was the constant, the fixed point amidst a whirlwind of notions and tweaks. And then came Hamilton. Firstly, it was Shanghai. Afterwards, Imola. Afterwards, Canada. Braking marks that did not merely distort expectation, they destroyed it. 3 to 5 meters short of Leclerc's virtual limit, and still getting to the apex. No lockups, no instability, just cold, clinical calm. One of the engineers summed it up starkly. We built this car around Charles, and Lewis just broke it in half. They didn't say it with malice. They said it to him in awe, because Hamilton wasn't asking the team to adapt for him. He was making them do it. No politics, no theatrics, just performance. And that is how belief moves in Formula One. Not in strategy meetings, not in press conferences, but in the silence of a debrief room, when all the engineers start their sentences with, based on what Lewis felt. Make no mistake, this was not just Hamilton adapting. This was Hamilton rewriting Ferrari's neural code, and for Charles, it wasn't just frustrating, it was existential. Ferrari has a saying, the simulator never sleeps. But now, it's getting outrun, because Hamilton isn't just driving faster. He's driving in a way the system wasn't built to comprehend. Real-time adaptive braking, modulation based on wind gusts, micro-adjustments in pedal pressure that shift corner balance before the car even reacts. You can't be taught that. You can't be demonstrated that. You can only observe it. A silver-haired veteran, a Schumacher-era veteran, whispered sotto voce of the unthinkable. I've never seen brake control like this since Michael. And in Maranello, that was seismic. Because at Ferrari, to ever equate someone with Schumacher, you don't cross that line, unless the evidence is conclusive. But what shook them wasn't the comparison. It was that Hamilton's brilliance was replicable. On circuits, on compounds, on temperatures. Leclerc, begrudgingly, tried to fight back, drove deeper into Baku's turn 3, lost the apex, lost 0.2. On race day, he pulled it back, lost track position. That ain't car performance, that's psychological upset. And Hamilton? He didn't pipe up. Because when you're the one changing the gravitational forces inside a garage, you don't need to say anything. The telemetry says it all. This Ferrari wasn't constructed for Lewis Hamilton. It's taking over as his, though. Brake migration profiles, formerly sacred in Leclerc's eyes, now cemented with Hamilton's style. Engineers no longer argue his gut instinct. They start with it. The map is in the process of changing, literally. In Montreal, a new braking configuration was christened discreetly, Map LHA. No fanfare, no controversy, direct execution. Ferrari is not hijacked by politics. It's hijacked by performance. The red car no longer dances to the beat of Charles alone. It's learning Hamilton speak, turn by turn, lap by lap. This is what greatness actually is, not in tweets, not in Instagram clips, but within the millisecond gaps of brake and throttle, where legends are born, and dynasties are either maintained or overthrown. And for Leclerc, this is no longer just a fight for race wins. It's a fight for the very soul of Ferrari. Because when trust erodes in Formula One, it doesn't come back. Oscar Piastri has just done something no title contender has dared to do since Alain Prost walked away from McLaren in '89. He said no to team orders, flat out, no room for nuance, no PR filter. I'm not willing to enter those talks at all. Now, here's why that's not just bold. It's potentially insane. He's leading the championship. He's got Max Verstappen lurking 43 points behind, and instead of slamming the door in his teammates' faces around him, he's leaving it wide open for Lando Norris to take it all away. But maybe that's the master move, because if you listen closely, what Piastri is doing isn't just about right and wrong, it's about tactics, and it might be the highest risk, highest principled power move in modern Formula One. Let's be crystal clear here. Team orders have won world titles. Schumacher Barrichello is the masterclass illustration. Consider Vettel Weber. Even Rosberg's 2016 title wasn't without some astute Mercedes strategic help. And then there's McLaren, stuck on a car that is now finally championship class, choosing to not play the game everyone else does when things get tough. Which is why Piastri's solution is so radical. He's the leading candidate. He's got 5 wins. He's demonstrated he can outqualify Lando Norris on ability, and instead of cashing political capital, he's saying, I just want a fair shot. And this is the genius. He's leveraging fairness as his tool. Because McLaren, unlike Red Bull, is not top-down. It has 2 peers, and if Piastri continues to win without team orders, then it becomes infeasible for the garage to switch to Lando, regardless of how rapidly Norris goes. The respect Piastri earns by not insisting on protection, it becomes his protection. It gains him silent loyalty in the garage, in the strategy room, even in the sim setups. He's not asking the team to rally around him. He's making them want to. Now, this is the dark cloud hanging over all of this. McLaren is walking a tightrope, because while Norris and Piastri nick points off each other, Verstappen, one of the F1 greats of all time at closing, lurks waiting. Let us tot up the arithmetic. Verstappen is 43 points behind. A DNF or team spat at Monza. That gap's wiped out. And Max? He does not need permission to thrash. The McLaren pit team knows this. Zach Brown knows this. And yet, still holding to the code of ethics, we'd rather lose fair than win dirty. You know what that is? That's punk rock. That's not corporate. That's saying, we don't care how Red Bull does it. We're going to win our way. But don't be fooled. This isn't without risk. Because if Max wins the championship by 6 points because McLaren wouldn't make Lando stall for Piastri, that'll eat them for years. And yet that's exactly what makes this season so tensions run high. Because McLaren isn't competing for trophies only. They're competing for identity. They're prioritizing sportsmanship over spreadsheets. And for the first time in a very long time, the Woking team is not just building a fast car. They're building a legacy. What Piastri did was not just a soundbite. It was a statement. In an era where each point is policed, where drivers are pawns in billion-dollar franchises, Oscar Piastri is betting that integrity can still win championships. He's not asking Lando to move over. He's not playing the politics. He's saying, if I'm good enough, I'll beat him. If I'm not, I shouldn't be champion anyway. It's raw, it's rare, and it's why this title fight just became more than just numbers. It's a war between power and principle, between team politics and personal code. And Piastri, he just put the come and take it flag. Everybody's got an opinion as to why Lewis Hamilton is struggling. The tires, the brakes, the power unit, all of them are wrong, because the only individual who's been alongside Lewis in trenches for 10 years, the individual who turned strategy into science at Mercedes, suddenly dropped a bombshell in silence. James Vowles has finally said what no Ferrari person will. Lewis hasn't got the specific things he needs to feel strength from the car. That is not a technical sentence. It is a surgical sentence. And it explains why Ferrari has not cracked Lewis Hamilton, not yet. But it also implies something darker. When he gets what he needs, Ferrari could be his weapon, not his weakness. Let's start with the fact that the headlines miss. Lewis is no plug-and-play driver. He is not tunable in the broad sense that pundits love to bandy about. He needs connecting, not just performance. At Mercedes, the car was set to his wavelength. Every balance tweak, every brake map, every throttle characteristic was locked into his micro feels. That's why, when Vowles says it's about building confidence from specific elements, he's speaking of trust at the margins. And today, the Ferrari SF25 isn't talking his language. The braking zones are alien to him. The torque delivery is less consistent. The corner entry behavior alters just enough to disrupt his rhythm. He's not behind the wheel of a bad car. He's driving a car that wasn't born for him. And here's the brutal irony. Charles Leclerc thrives on chaos. He drives through instability. He reacts. Lewis doesn't react. He orchestrates. That's why he's struggled, not because he's slower, but because Ferrari's current feedback loop is not built for his genius. Vowles said something else, and it's subtle, but massive. When he's in his zone, he and Charles are this close. That wasn't compliment, that was threat. Because what the numbers won't reveal yet is this. In Miami, Hamilton squeezed Leclerc tight. In China, sprint win. Wherever the SF25 goes on in a normal pace for a couple of stretches, Hamilton is there. This is not decline story. It's latency story. Lewis is processing a new operating system, one that fights his instincts. And when you've spent 12 years with Mercedes muscle memory baked into your subconscious, every 10th takes longer to reclaim. Let's be real. Carlos Sainz adapted to Ferrari, yes, but not while carrying the weight of 7 world championships, not while recalibrating 12 seasons of deeply ingrained sensory memory, not while being called upon to lead Ferrari out of decades of stagnation on day one. That is why Vowles' phrase is important. It's all possible. It's all adaptation. From the man who watched Hamilton construct dynasties, this isn't an obituary. It's a prophecy. And it is notable that Ferrari still hasn't admitted it. They didn't sign a legend. They signed a driver who is going to be able to transform what their car needs to become. Let the critics jeer. Let the press dissect each race in which Charles finishes ahead of him. They don't get it. Because here is the truth Vowles knows, and one that Ferrari is learning slowly to realize. You don't win with Hamilton by getting him to fit your car. You win by letting him turn the car into something he can drive alone. And when that happens, Ferrari doesn't just have a champion, they have a kingmaker. It's not simply a question of finding his pace. This is about unleashing belief in a system that was never built for Lewis, but now could be the most dangerous thing on the grid because of him. And that's the type of change that wins championships, not in 2025, but in 2026, when the whole sport resets and Ferrari has a car penned in Hamilton's own handwriting. Mark the space between now and then, because with every lap where he closes the gap, it's not recovery, it's the buildup before the storm.